Welcome, and thank you for staying with me on this journey, even though intervals of unanticipated radio silence, which tend to develop when I have to go out of town. I hope you have been enjoying our Cleveland summer days of sun and warmth, and of what I hope is a time of relative ease for you. So, to reinforce that sense of ease, let us take our first break to breathe and just sit comfortably, but with some alertness, and just let go of anything we might be holding on to, anything that might be tense. Excuse me. And just give ourselves this island of opportunity to soften, to be gentle, to hold ourselves with a certain compassion and love as we release all the tensions in our foreheads and let our jaws drop and just adopt a kind of blank face. Give our shoulders the opportunity to unhinge, possibly. I guess that's the jaw more, but to just to loosen up. And our arms and our elbows and our hands and our fingers. And let us release anything we might be holding in our tummies, in our insides. I think so often we hold on inside. And we continue to just move gently our thighs and knees and lower legs, perhaps twirl our ankles and wiggle our toes. It's summer after all. And having just given ourselves these couple of minutes of release, let us breathe. Let's just take a good, full, noticed breath and concentrate on just the air coming in and how it feels going down our throats, expanding our chests, our backs, going all the way down to our tummies, to our knees, to our toes, to the tips of our fingers, possibly. And then let us release it. And when we don't want to be on the exhale anymore, when we need to take that next breath, let us allow ourselves to do so. Filling up again. Filling up with the wonder of it, with the fullness of it, with the comfort of it. And we might hold on to that fullness, that extra fullness we don't normally notice, if we even get there. Most of us are breathing quite shallowly for most of the day. And if we are anxious or rushing or nervous about something, we're hardly breathing at all. And that's just a figure of speech, but our breath is probably very, very shallow, very short. So let's luxuriate in this a little bit. Breathing in so deeply and breathing out again. And let's do that a few more times at your own pace. I expect that many of you have taken multiple breaths and releases while I talk. But it feels good just to use that breath in this time of letting go. As a respite, just for us, just for now, just for here, wherever I am. This is sufficient right now. This year, our summer has had an intermittent feature I don't remember experiencing before in Cleveland, or at least not to the extent that we have this year. I am referring to extended periods of serious air quality alerts. Summer day camps have taken their activities inside on days with those high alerts. I personally found that when I was outside for an extended period of time on such days, I felt the effects in my eyes and sinuses. I am therefore heeding the warnings more carefully, and I know that others have experienced some of those similar symptoms. Nevertheless, there have been some gloriously beautiful days when it seems the natural world is at its most lush, with growth and blooms, with colors and fragrances. For me, such days, in alternation with days on which it is unsafe to breathe outside, which I just find an extraordinary statement, create a kind of schizophrenic or whiplash emotional response of alternating dread with delight, of impending doom with hopefulness. Not long ago, I came across a Devar Torah entitled Preserving Hope, written by Rabbi Suzanne Singer. I found her words to be quite moving, meaningful, insightful, and helpful. So I marked it with the thought that I would share it with you. Rabbi Singer writes in part, hope is hard to find these days, yet we need it now more than ever. Hope can spring from the most desperate places, like a daisy between sidewalk cracks, or even from a site like the Twin Towers in New York City, destroyed, as we know, on September 11th, 2001. The survivor tree, a half trunk charred black with broken roots and one living branch found at the site of 9/11, was discovered a month after the collapse of the towers. It was headed for the dump until a young woman named Rebecca Clow begged that the tree be given a chance. The tree survived and was returned to the site of the 9/11 memorial. Now, more than 20 years later, its branches are bright with blossoms in the spring. All it took was someone believing in that little charred trunk, someone to believe in a different outcome than what everyone else expected. It took someone with hope. Hope is not a belief that problems will magically disappear. It is a choice about how to tackle life's challenges. Jane Goodall, the world's foremost expert on chimpanzees, wrote about the survivor tree in the Book of Hope, a survival guide for trying times. She makes a distinction between hope and optimism. Hope is a stubborn determination to do all you can to make it work. And hope is something we can cultivate. Hope does not deny all difficulty and all the danger that exists, but it is also not stopped by them. There is a lot of darkness, but our actions create light. Hope, as you might expect, is a very Jewish value. The late chief rabbi of Great Britain, Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, one of my most favorite sages of modern times, taught in his essay, Future Tense, How the Jews Invented Hope, the following: Western civilization is the product of two cultures, ancient Greece and ancient Israel. The Greeks believed in fate. The future is determined by the past. Jews believed in freedom. There is no evil decree that cannot be averted. The Greeks gave the world the concept of tragedy. Jews gave it the idea of hope. Think about our central story, the Exodus. The enslaved Israelites were in bondage for hundreds of years. If the story were told in ancient Greece, they may have seen bondage as a prescribed occurrence beyond anyone's ability to change. But in the Hebrew Bible, Moses had a different vision of the future. Israelites free from bondage, living in a land of their own. The Exodus story tells us that our circumstances don't define us. We can change them for a better future. Hope is really a decision to fight against the odds, no matter how forbidding. Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel once told Reform Judaism, "One must wager on the future. I believe it is possible, in spite of everything, to believe in friendship in a world without friendship, and even to believe in God in a world where there has been an eclipse of God's face. We must not give in to cynicism, to defeat injustice and misfortune, if only for one instant, for a single victim, is to invent a new reason to hope." I would interject that it is very easy to have conversations with friends and family, or perfect strangers these days, and to find ourselves at the conclusion in a state of despondency over all that seems wrong and at risk in our world. The wildfires in Canada and the global hottest day on record on the 4th of July, with possibly more and worse to come, are only the most recent. Although one can find new concerns every day in the news. Judaism, as Elie Wiesel pointed out, does not traffic in despair or cynicism. At the very worst moments of our history, in the depths of absolute misery, degradation, and death, we never entirely gave up hope. We still believed that redemption would come, if not for ourselves, it would come for our children, if not for them, for their children, and if not for them, for their children. Without that stubborn belief, without that insistent hope, I don't believe we would still be here. Rabbi Singer continues. Jane Goodall says in the Book of Hope, when we face adversity, it is hope that gives us the confidence to rally our indomitable spirit to overcome it. In the end, hope is really a strategy, not a feeling, and it is within our power to call it forth. You might say, changing the world takes a lot of time. I don't have an unlimited number of years to see the change I want. We need to keep our eyes on the prize, even if the prize is far in the future. We need to believe in and build a future, even if we may not be there to experience it. We must plant seeds for our children and grandchildren so that they might experience a better world. After all, that is our obligation as Jews. In the words of Rabbi Sachs, to be a Jew is to be an agent of hope in a world serially threatened by despair. Judaism is sustained struggle against the world that is, in the name of the world that could be, should be, but is not yet. We live in a complex space of polarities and realities, of what our tradition envisions as the difference between Yerushalayim Lamala and Yerushalayim Lamata, the heavenly Jerusalem of our hopes and dreams and vision, and the earthbound Jerusalem of our daily reality. We Jews know how to balance contradictions and conflicts. We have lived most of our history at the nexus of opposing forces. I believe that we will continue to live with our eyes on eternity and our feet planted firmly in today. So, with thoughts of today in our minds, in our hearts, let us pause again and breathe in this moment, this reality, this day that is the only day we will ever have of July 6th, I think, is the day on which this recording is happening, of 2023. In other words, every moment that we are living is the only time we will be living it. Once it is gone, we cannot get it back. So let us breathe it in all of its fullness. And let us breathe in also, even if we're not feeling it at this moment. Let us breathe in the knowledge that we can turn to hope, that is something we can access, we can insist upon. We can inspire ourselves with, as we have said, one small story, one small action. One small effort that changes the whole nature of our day. I return to some of Rabbi Singer's words. Hope is really a strategy, not a feeling. And it is within our power to call it forth. Let us breathe that idea in. And breathe out the ease with which we turn to despair, to negativity, to the dire consequences we imagine. And even some of the dreadful results of things that do happen every day in our world. We can set those aside, not deny them, but set them aside as we breathe out. By way of conclusion, and hopefully some inspiration for the days ahead, I would share with you, I think I've done so before, but it speaks so powerfully that I think it's worth repeating, always worth repeating many, many times. The poem, Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. It echoes so many of the things I've just shared with you, and the Jewish experience as well. Still I rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room, just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air, I'll rise. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide, leaving behind nights of terror and fear. I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise. I rise. I rise. May this be a week of ascent in mind and body and spirit, most of all in thoughts and feelings, responses. God bless. I will see you next time, and thank you.